This is my video PowerPoint presentation on the wonderful world of in-text citations. Okay, so this video is going to introduce you to citations, to in-text citations, and then we will look at why, when, and how to do in-text citations. We will also look at rules and common problem situations. Now, this is just the first introductory video on citations. There will be further videos later on that explain other things you need to know. But this video today is just about in-text citations. So let's begin. And let's look at the question of why we should do citations. Okay, there are several reasons why we should use citations in writing. Number one, they show you have studied the topic. Second, they show your knowledge of current research on the topic. 3, they show that you can use the ideas of other people to support and develop your own point of view. So those 3 things are all very important in terms of the course assessments. They show that you did proper research, that you made a proper effort in writing the essay. Beyond that, they are also very important because they show the reader how to locate the information that you used. So let's say somebody reads your essay or your research and they decide that they want to check that for themselves. Maybe it's useful in their research. Maybe they're just interested in learning more. Or maybe they think you made a mistake and they want to check that. For whatever reason, it's very useful for other people to include the citation. It helps them to do their own research more effectively. So part of being an international community of researchers is this shared responsibility of providing accurate information about where you did your research and how others can find the research information. Finally, as we will look at in more detail later on, the citation differentiates or demarcates what is your idea and what is the idea from the researcher or the expert in the area. So it clearly shows the reader what your opinion is and what was taken from research. This is my friend, the Colonel, and he is an expert on citations. And he's going to summarize the main idea for us here. So he says, you always need to provide a citation when you refer to the ideas or works of others. And that's basically it. So whether you're just taking an idea or taking a sentence or using data, you always include a citation, an in-text citation. So let's move on and look in a little bit more detail at in-text citations. So what is an in-text citation? It's brief information about the source of the research, and you include it in the text. This is why it's called an in-text citation. It's in the body of the essay, in the main text of the essay. Often, it is used in the same sentence as the information that you include. And we will see this in some examples that I'm going to show you in a minute. So you have the information taken from the research and then the citation. If I use the word in-text reference, that has exactly the same meaning here as in-text citation. So we can say that the 2 words are interchangeable, which means we can use one in place of the other, and vice versa. So the word interchangeable, I think, is very useful because it has a particular meaning that no other word has. And the Colonel says, it's simply a name or names and a year, isn't it? The name of the researchers or the institution and the year they did the research. So let's move on and look at how to do a citation for a single author, for one writer. So include the author's family name or the author's surname and the year, as in the examples shown here. So you write your sentence, and then at the end, you can put a parenthesis or bracket. If you do include the parenthesis, make sure you include a comma after the name, after the family name or surname of the writer. So this is the family name, comma, and a year. Okay, notice that the period or full stop comes after the parenthesis. Or we can simply include the family name and then open the parenthesis, year, close the parenthesis. This functions as the subject, and this is the verb in an ordinary sentence. Okay, so just notice that there's one parenthesis. Hang on. Just notice that there's one parenthesis, whatever we do. Okay, one parenthesis. So there is no parenthesis here. We put a comma here. So let's look at some further examples of single author citations, in-text citations. So we have the name, the family name, and the year. So this is the subject, and this is a verb of your sentence. Or we can just include the research information, and then we put the parenthesis after the information. In this case, use a comma, year, close parenthesis. Or we can just write the full sentence, and then at the end, we include the parenthesis. And again, there is a comma inside the parenthesis, and then a full stop or period after the parenthesis. Or another example, using a subject and a verb. So these are all examples of citing one person, one writer in your research essay. So let's move on. Let's look at how to do a citation for two authors. So when there are two authors, include both authors' family names, both of their surnames, and the year of the publication in every in-text citation. Cite the authors in the order they appear in the source. So just use the same order. Use the ampersand sign. This is called the ampersand sign when we include brackets or parentheses, and in the reference list, and use and in running text. So the form looks like this: parenthesis, author's name, ampersand, author's family name, comma, year. So it would look like this: Bernstein and Tigerman, comma, year, close parenthesis, full stop or period. However, if you just use it as the subject of your sentence, as part of the sentence, or as running or continuous text, you can use the word and. Okay, let's move on and look at some more examples of citing two authors. So again, this is part of the sentence. We use and we use one parenthesis as always. And this is also part of the sentence. However, if we decide to include it at the end of the sentence, there should be a period or full stop here, I think, or a comma. We would use the ampersand sign there and the comma here. Okay, let's move on and look at how to cite three or more authors. If we decide to cite an article to include a citation for three or more authors, then we just write the name of the first writer, the first author, so the family name or the surname of the first writer, and then we follow it with the words et al. So et means and in Latin, and al means all others. So it's the first person and all the others. So in this case, we include all of the names and their initials in the reference list at the end. But I will remind you of this in a later video. Let's just focus on the in-text citation for now. So your example here would just be Kerwin is the first writer et al., period, comma, and the year 2000. So let's look at a few examples. Here we use it as the subject of the sentence. So again, there is one parenthesis, and here exactly the same. It's part of this sentence. But if we decide to include the parenthesis at the end of the sentence with the full stop or period here, then we would include the comma as part of the in-text citation. Whew. Okay, so let's look at some other examples. So authors citing other authors. So this is very, very common. Okay, so one writer includes the research that they wrote about in their writing. So let's quickly look at what a primary source and a secondary source is. So the one that you read is the secondary source. Okay, so in this case, you read Corvin 2018. The writer Corvin mentions Kelly, who wrote the article originally in 1978. So in this case, you would need to mention Kelly in your text because Kelly is the source of the idea. It was originally Kelly's idea. But because you read Corvin, you would need to include this in your parenthesis. So you read the secondary source, Corvin, not Kelly. So you could also include the citation like this in parenthesis at the end of the sentence. So this is a special case, but also a common case. So let's just check this here. So include the primary source and then insert the words as cited in before the secondary source. So let's look at one more. So let's say that there is more than one work by the same writer. There is more than one research article included in your citations. If the two articles were written in the same year, you just write 2006A, 2006B, or if the articles are written in different years, you just include them as separate citations. So Clark 2006 and Clark 2008. Okay, so finally, let's look at some verbs that we can use when writing our in-text citations. So in all of these sentences, we start with a citation and we use it as the subject in the sentence. So the verbs we can use would be states, claims, suggests, argues, and observes. In this example, there is no verb, but clearly this is a very useful and common way of introducing in-text citations. So I will do more videos on this exciting subject later. We will look at things like paraphrasing, and we will look at quotations, and we will practice examples of this in class together to make sure you do it correctly. And then later we will look at how to do the reference list. But I think this is enough for today. If we study citations for too long, I think we're all going to get a headache. So this was my video about in-text citations. Thanks very much, everybody. See you soon.